Hello, students, and welcome back to the third part of our discussions on the topic of electricity and magnetism. In the previous two sessions, we had discussed in detail about magnets, its properties, magnetic field, how we can represent magnetic field diagrammatically through magnetic field lines. We had discussed their properties and also discussed a couple of activities that helped us to understand the magnetic field created by magnets. So today we will understand a very important concept, that is how the two topics of electricity and magnetism are related. Now, for this, I would like to go back to the assignment that was given to you all regarding comparison of electric field and magnetic field. Now, when we talk of comparison, we include both the similarities and differences. So, talking about the similarities, both electric field and magnetic field act at a certain distance, like action at a distance force. So both electric force and magnetic force are action at a distance. Means there is no direct physical contact between the two interacting objects. In case of electric force, the two charges may not be in direct physical contact, still they apply force on each other, and the same thing happens between the magnets. Both are vector quantities, electric field and magnetic field. Electric field is represented by E vector, while magnetic field is represented by B vector. Electric field may be created due to electric charges which may be stationary or moving, while magnetic fields are always created due to moving electric charges. Now, in case of electric field, there are positive and negative charges that are responsible for creation of these fields, while in case of magnetic fields, we have north pole and south pole in the magnets. Now, two important rules regarding both electric field and magnetic field, or rather electric charges and magnets. Like charges repel, opposite charges attract. Similarly, like poles repel, opposite poles attract. When it comes to representation of the electric field and magnetic field, in both the cases we are having field lines. So these are the similarities. While in case of differences, we know that electric field act along the direction. Electric force acts along the direction of the electric field, whereas the magnetic force acts perpendicular to the magnetic field. So due to this, the electric force does work in displacing a charged particle, whereas the magnetic force associated with the steady magnetic field does no work when the particle is displaced. Because as you all know from the understanding of work done, that if the force and displacement are acting perpendicular to each other, then work done is zero. Now, electric force acts on a charged particle regardless of whether the particle is moving, while the magnetic force acts on a charged particle only when the particle is in motion. This point was discussed in the similarities part also, that electric field may be created both by stationary or moving charges, while magnetic field is necessarily created by charges in motion. Now this will be discussed a little bit in the end of the session, that how moving electric charges are responsible for creating magnetic field. Now that we have understood what magnetic field is all about, now a question arises that if electric charges are responsible for creation of magnetic field, so there should be some connection between these two important branches of physics, that is electricity and magnetism. Now, let me tell you, there was a time when people felt that these two topics are not at all related to each other. They are totally different topics and have to be studied separately. But there were scientists who always worked hard to derive a relationship between these two. They always wanted to figure out that is there any relationship between these two concepts, these two branches, electricity and magnetism? Can one of them be generated with the help of other? So when such a discovery was actually realized, it becomes so useful for us. And actually in this lesson we would be covering up both the topics, like how electricity could be responsible for generation of magnetic field, and how magnetism could be utilized for generation of electricity. So a pioneer in this respect was Sir Hans Christian Ørsted, who worked really hard to derive a relationship between electricity and magnetism. He conducted a number of experiments and was able to prove that electricity is very much a cause for generation of magnetic field. He was a Danish physicist and chemist who discovered that electric current create magnetic fields, which was the first connection found between electricity and magnetism. In fact, on 21st April 1820, Ørsted published his discovery that a compass needle was deflected from magnetic north by a nearby electric current, confirming a direct relationship between electricity and magnetism. The often reported story that Ørsted made this discovery incidentally during a lecture is a myth. He had in fact been looking for a connection between electricity and magnetism since 1818, but was quite confused by the results he was obtaining. His initial interpretation was that magnetic effects radiate from all sides of a wire, carrying an electric current, as do light and heat. 3 months later, he began more intensive investigations and soon thereafter published his findings, showing that an electric current produces a circular magnetic field as it flows through a wire. For his discovery, the Royal Society of London awarded Ørsted the Copley Medal in 1820. Ørsted's findings stirred much research into electrodynamics throughout the scientific community, influencing French physicist André-Marie Ampère's developments of a single mathematical formula to represent the magnetic forces between current-carrying conductors. Ørsted's work also represented a major step towards a unified concept of energy. Through his experiment, he proved that a current carrying conductor creates a magnetic field around it. Now, once we have discussed a lot regarding the contribution of Sir Hans Christian Ørsted in this aspect, it becomes so important for us to have a basic understanding of the experiment that was conducted by him. Now, in this picture, we have seen the basic setup that was used by Sir Ørsted in conducting his experiment. As you can see, this was the setup used by him. But to have a clear understanding, let us use a different setup similar to this one that will help us to understand how the experiment was actually conducted and what realization was made. So this was the setup that I was talking about in Ørsted's experiment. A simple setup in which you can see that a circuit has been set up using a battery along with a magnetic compass that has been kept close to the circuit and a switch which is presently in the off state. Obviously, when no current is flowing through the circuit, the compass needle shows no deflection. Now, as soon as the switch is pressed on, you can see there is a deflection in the compass needle. Now, I had told you earlier that the pointer, for the sake of convenience, is marked red on one side that denotes the north. So, when the switch is pressed off, the deflection returns to its normal state, while the pointer again gets deflected as soon as the current is flowing. Now, by moving or rather changing the position of the compass, again we can have an understanding regarding how the deflection is changing. You can observe that in this setup there is no magnet. There is a simple wire that is allowing current to flow through it. Again, by changing the polarities of the battery, we are reversing the direction of current flowing in the circuit, and that is also affecting the deflection produced. A very simple setup gives us such a good understanding of the dependence of electricity and magnetism. This was actually the key circuit that helped Sir Hans Christian Ørsted to come to this very important conclusion. I would like to show you how changing the current also affects the deflection. See, when the magnitude of current is changed, how the deflection is varying, isn't it? Now you might be wondering how to reproduce this experiment. For this, you can see a wooden stand in which a magnetic compass has been fitted. Now the copper wire is fitted on this rectangular frame. With the help of a pinion, we can change the position of the copper wire by raising or lowering it so as to determine the relationship between the deflection produced and the distance between the wire and the needle. Now there are 3 leveling screws are used so that the setup is perfectly horizontal. Now an arrangement is made so the magnetic needle is completely parallel to the copper wire. Now the ends of the copper wire are connected to a battery, and as soon as current starts flowing through it, you find that the needle shows deflection. Now obviously the magnetic compass needle will show deflection only when there is a magnetic field near it. When the direction of current is reversed, again there is a deflection, but this time the deflection is also reversed. So using this experiment, using a similar experiment, Overstreet discovered the relationship between electricity and magnetism, and that was further published in his research papers. So this important discovery that a current carrying conductor creates a magnetic field around it is what we commonly refer to as a magnetic effect of current, and this is actually responsible for creation of so many concepts, so many useful appliances that we find around us. We will be studying about all of these in the coming sessions, but for the time being, let us understand the reason why does a moving charge create a magnetic field that I was telling about in the previous part of today's class. Now I would like to tell you one thing regarding this question. Like, to understand the answer to this question, you need to have a proper understanding of the famous special theory of relativity given by Sir Albert Einstein. Actually, that theory helps us to understand how a moving charge could create a magnetic field. But since in the present situation this is beyond the scope of our syllabus, you would be studying about this theory of relativity if you are opting for physics in your graduation courses. Then you would be studying about it in a bit more detail, and that's when you would be able to understand the answer to this question. But right now you should understand that just like a moving charge is responsible for creating an electric field around it, similarly a moving charge also creates a magnetic field around it. You might be remembering from your study of the structure of atom in class 9 chemistry that an atom comprises of 3 subatomic particles: proton, neutron and electrons. While the protons and neutrons are confined inside the nucleus, electrons keep on moving around the nucleus in their orbits. Now while moving around the nucleus in their orbits, the electrons are having 2 types of motion. They are rotating as well as spinning, as you can see in this picture. So this is actually responsible for generation of magnetic field. How is it able to do so? That, as I was telling, you would be able to understand once you study the special theory of relativity. Now since magnetic field is a vector quantity, so obviously there should be some rule to determine its direction. So we will be discussing a couple of these. The first amongst these is the Snow rule. Now the terms S, N, O and W represent 4 different terms. So it is called the Ampere swimming rule or Snow rule. Imagining a man who swims in the direction of current from south to north, facing a magnetic needle kept under him, such that current enters his feet, then the north pole of the needle will deflect towards his left hand, that is towards west. So this rule actually helps us to understand the direction of magnetic field with respect to the direction of the current. If we imagine that a man is swimming in the direction of current from south to north, actually in snow rule S stands for south and N stands for north, and the magnetic compass is below him, or you can say that the man is swimming over the magnetic compass. So O stands for over. So the north pole of the needle will deflect towards his left hand if we assume that the current is entering his feet. So that is towards west. So W stands for west. So snow rule can be used, or what is referred to as Ampere swimming rule can be used to determine the direction of magnetic field. This picture helps you to understand the direction of the different physical quantities. So you can see that the current is entering from his feet. He is over the magnetic compass, he is swimming over the magnetic compass, and the north pole is getting deflected towards his left hand, that is towards west. The next rule is Maxwell's screw rule, or sometimes it is also called the corkscrew rule. The direction of current and the direction of magnetic field is very clearly marked in the picture. So if the direction of current is along the direction in which the screw is inserted, then the direction of rotation gives the direction of the magnetic field. But primarily you will be coming across this rule in your textbooks, the curl right hand rule, Maxwell's right hand thumb rule. With the help of this picture, you can have a very good understanding regarding the rule. What the rule is all about. It states that if we assume that we are holding a current carrying conductor in our right hand. Now at this very offset, I would like to tell you that it's just a hypothetical situation. We are not supposed to hold a current carrying conductor in our hand in any way, but just a hypothetical situation that if we assume to hold a current carrying conductor in our right hand such that the current is along the direction of the thumb is pointing in the direction of current, and then the direction in which the remaining fingers would get closed, the remaining fingers would get curled, that direction is going to be the direction of magnetic field. Like as in the picture, you can see the thumb is pointing upward and the arrowhead shows the direction of current I. Then the magnetic field B is given by the direction of the fingers in which they are getting closed or curled. So in this way we can find out the direction of magnetic field using the right hand thumb rule. This is another way of looking into the rule. See how the current carrying conductor is being held in the right hand, the thumb is pointing in the direction of the current, and the manner in which the fingers are getting closed, the fingers curl in direction of magnetic field. We can apply this rule in determining the direction of magnetic field in two situations. Like if the current is flowing in the upward direction, the thumb is pointing in the upward direction, then the field is in the anti-clockwise direction. And if the thumb is pointing downward, the current is flowing downward, then the direction of magnetic field is clockwise. So depending upon the direction in which current is flowing in any circuit, we can determine very easily the direction of magnetic field using Maxwell right hand thumb rule. And I must tell you that this is the rule that is mentioned in your textbooks commonly. So we will stop at this point. We will continue with a discussion on applying this rule in different situations depending upon the shape of the conductor, the current carrying conductor, how we can obtain different patterns for magnetic field lines, and what are the factors on which this magnetic field depends. That we will be studying in our coming sessions. Thank you.